Hello and namaste. Welcome. I'm going to do a little shift on my camera. There. You can see right into my face. Namaste and welcome. For our asana class this week, I want to explore the element of fire. As I've been sort of exploring this myself, and if you've been in other classes with me around this element, you know that I'm thinking about passion, about desire and passion, like what it is that we really want to fuel within ourselves that helps us to experience and do the things that we really love. There's a quote by Rumi, and it's just coming to my mind. It's like, well, now I can't remember it exactly, but it's basically, the whole do what you love thing. Everything will, what you want and need in your life will come if you really pay attention to what it is you love and what your passion is. So in this asana class, what I want to do is explore how we can express in our bodies a quality of balance. Because what I recognize happens often with passion is that we have all these interests and things we might be passionate about. We have a lot of desires, but they can happen sort of in fits and starts. Like, well, I'm describing myself, but maybe you can relate. Like, I'll do it for a while, and then it's like I don't have time, or I get burned out, or I even lose interest. It's like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And there are some ways in our bodies that we can explore with going less into that yes, no kind of body gesture and more into a quality of moving with balance. So that's one aspect that I'm going to bring in here. Another is the working with the breath in the practice. So your breath is a really beautiful indicator for you of the level of effort and whether that is a sustainable level of effort over time. When you over effort, the breath becomes labored. And so I want to really encourage you in your practice to notice what's happening with your breath and when is your breath starting to feel like kind of a push and pull, yes and no. All right. When are you having to stop because you're out of breath? Even when you're doing things that aren't yoga, like when you're out walking, this is a great practice to do. To notice when are you getting out of breath? And is it possible to go at a pace that both gets your heart rate up and keeps you moving and keeps you inspired, and yet you can breathe easy through? If there's not enough effort, then the breath will become kind of lifeless, like there's not a lot of potency to it. It will become more shallow and not as full and deep. So there's always this balance. I'm gonna have you start out with doing a little ujjayi pranayama practice, and I'm gonna change my camera and move over to my chair. We can do that. So I'd like you to be sitting in the chair. Sitting on the floor, of course, is an option, but that's only if you can really sit with ease in your back for a period of time. If sitting, you start to feel kind of cranky in your knees or cranky in your back when you're on the floor, so much better if you're going to do a breathing practice or a practice where you want conscious attention and focus to sit up. And as you sit slightly towards the middle of the chair rather than way back, and wiggle around a little bit. Get anchored in your sitting bones. Just take a couple of exhales like that. It's like a welcoming. Let the shoulders relax down. Start to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. And then bring your hands up onto your rib cage. We're going to just do a little gentle stroking motion across the ribs. This is actually the area of the solar plexus and of the third chakra, which is said to be the power center. It is of the fire element. So it's the fire element in our body, we could say, radiates out right from here. As you're gently massaging, not even massaging, like just stroking across the ribs, consider the possibility of kind of softening. Like you want to spread the radiant light out. So it's not a spotlight. It's a really spread out, more diffused light that still is bright enough for you to see whatever you want to see, but not so brilliant that it makes you squint your eyes. All right, so this is in our bodies, the kind of energy that I think is really helpful to cultivate. Now bring your hands onto the sides of your ribs. This is a shoulder opener. If you have tension in your shoulders or pain in the shoulder, you can, modify. You can have the hands more forward. But if it's possible to take your hands on the side ribs and kind of spread the elbows out to the side, you can take a couple of breaths, and the tops of the lungs are nice and open here. So you might feel like you can fill the lungs a little more fully. I'm just breathing in and out through the nose. I know I said ujjayi earlier, but don't get that sound in your throat so much yet. Just a nice. And feel how your rib cage moves. It widens out to the side a little bit as you breathe in, right? It also moves up slightly. I think of it kind of like a piston. So the rib cage, it slides up and down and up and down with every breath and potentially with every movement. All right, now bring your hands onto your back, and you can use the backs of your hands. You don't have to use your palms, the backs of your hands. You can even drop your chin and just rub a little bit right on your back ribs. Right underneath your back ribs are your kidneys and your adrenal glands. And energetically, those organs and those glands are related to the amount of effort. And when I've talked to Chinese medicine practitioners, they talk about how depleted so many people's kidneys and adrenals are. There's a lot of people with adrenal fatigue. There's a lot of pushing that we do, that people do in this world. And so the yoga practice, again, can be about pushing less. So as we go through the practice, I want you to imagine right here around your kidneys, there's space that the back ribs could even lift a little bit. Put your hands on your knees, roll your shoulders forward a little, and move your rib cage back slightly. Take a nice breath in. You could imagine like your kidneys like little extra lungs. All right. None of those actions, the front, the sides, or the back, exist by themselves. Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. They probably do exist by themselves, but ultimately, all of them together. All right, so close your eyes. Let your hands rest on the center of your thighs and your shoulders relax. Now we're going to do a little ujjayi breath. Ujjayi, it's called the victorious breath. And there is a sense of inner upliftment that happens when you use this breathing technique, this pranayama. You still breathe through the nose. Just get that feeling of breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. And then the Ujjayi Pranayama, there's a sound, but the sound is not so much the sound of the air moving through your nostrils as it is the sound moving like through the throat. Bring your mind's eye into the center of your throat. And there's a light contraction there, not a squeezing of the throat, but a light contraction, as if you were going to whisper. And in that whispery sound, the air moves against a little resistance and makes this oceany sound in the back of your throat, in the middle of your throat. Try doing it on the inhale and the exhale. But if you find that one of those is really hard, and more people have the difficulty on the inhale, I think, then you can focus mostly on the exhale at first. Now see if as you breathe in and out and you hear this sound, you can, on your inhale, let your whole rib cage lift up a little bit, with the back of the rib cage slightly flaring or billowing back, like curtains on an open window. So there's a lot of softness in the front. I'm not trying to push the front down, but there's softness there, and there's spaciousness in the back. Do one more breath like that. And then just let the sound fade away. Bring your hands together at the front of your heart. And you can slightly lift your heart towards your thumbs, but see if you can keep that spaciousness around your kidneys. We're going to come back to that over and over again. And my intention with this practice is to find a quality of balance, where passion is acknowledged and fueled, and there's a sort of the burn of our desire is sustainable. The burn of our efforts, sustainable. And see if you can connect to that intention, or if there's a different thread that comes to mind for you with the element of fire. Let's bring that to mind. And then do a little bow, head to heart. Release the hands down and lift your eyes. Come up now to standing. You can set your chair aside. Put it at the end of your mat. We're going to be using it in a moment. And bring your feet so that they're wide, and do a little easy swaying back and forth. Each time you come into a foot, plant that foot, plant it down. None of the elements exist all on their own. We're on earth. And you can get this kind of almost watery or airy flow. Water and air are both actually helpful with keeping the fire element balanced. Air helps fuel the fire, helps bring the flames up. Water can help cool the fire. But we're never going to toss a whole bucket on, okay? So you can flow. Let your arms swing. Swing them all the way around. And swing them all the way around. I'll go to the other side. And one more time. All right, do a couple shoulder rolls. All right. So like I said, this is the solar plexus. And I want you to think of it not like a sun that like shines out from here, but that radiates in all directions. All right. You got a little inner sun. It'd be like the sun turned on its side. So rather than facing forward and shining like that, on its side, and the rays go out to the front, to the sides, and to the back. And as we go through the practice, we're going to keep coming back to that. All right, let's take the, let me see how I want to do this. Let's actually come back to the chair. I think this will be a good way to explore this. Come back onto the chair and take your feet wide. As you take your feet wide, you may feel some stretch in your inner thighs. You can wiggle a little bit side to side in your sitting bones. And then sit over the center of your sitting bones and notice if your front ribs kind of push forward, especially if you lift up through your heart or you try to lengthen your spine. That's so common. I don't want you to like think you need to diminish it, okay? And in fact, I know that a lot of yoga teachers say, pull your front ribs down. Don't let your front ribs flare. But I want you to erase that instruction if you've ever heard it before, because to me, it feels like a diminishment. When you push down your ribs, you could just try it, pull your ribs down. It's like, no. So you can let the heart raise up and even the ribs expand a little bit, but lift to the back ribs. And then we're going to come over, taking the elbow onto the thigh. Had an alarm going off, sorry. So come over and stretch the top arm overhead. Now, as you do a little reach here, lengthen a little bit more through your thumb on that top hand. You can even curl your fingers in and press your thumb out, and you'll feel a little more space and openness in the back ribs. Now, I don't want so much that you start to collapse your chest. It's like the chest raises and the back ribs open. And in that, your pose is going to be more balanced. You can come up, and your energy is going to be more balanced. Lengthen up through your spine. See if you can feel the length through the back and the front. And then take the elbow over, stretch your arm over. So then warm up. You're going to get a nice stretch and opening on the back ribs. On the side ribs. But then curl your fingers in, stretch to your thumb, and you feel that opening along the back ribs. And release the arm, come up. Now bring your arms up and out to the sides. Have the palms facing towards the floor. And turn your palms forward and then up to the sky. And feel what happens in your back ribs. Likely they'll automatically push in a little. Now turn the palms down and then back. You can turn them up towards the sky a little, and you'll feel your front ribs drop down and the back ribs lift. Release the arms, do a shoulder roll. Now see if you can lift the arms to the sides with the palms towards the floor and find both of those actions. So it's like your whole rib cage slides up a little. The shoulders can rest on the rib cage. They don't have to hunch. Now come down. Step the feet in and then stand up. Move your chair aside. And take your feet wide. Let's turn the feet over to the right. So you can turn that right foot fully out. Angle the left one in a little bit and put your hands on your hips. Especially if the shoulders are tight, you might feel that either you hunch or that you scrunch. So you hunch or you scrunch. See if you can find balance. Slide your hands up towards your armpits and down. And imagine your rib cage, which is in the front, the back, and the sides, like a little piston going up and down. And see how clearly that piston can move. So the piston doesn't get long on one side, short on the other side. It's like a cylinder that slides. And keep that sliding up as you bend your front knee. Lift the arms with that same intention, and then turn your head and look over your front arm. Take a couple of breaths here and keep a nice rhythm of your breath where you feel each time. And like there's that little bit of movement in the rib cage. Release the arms, turn your head to center, and step in. We focus a lot on belly breathing because so many people are shallow chest breathers. But ultimately, just breathing into the belly is not going to be that helpful. I feel like if we can get this feeling of like fullness with the breath, it'll be so much more balancing. Step the feet out wide. Belly breathing can be very relaxing, but it can kind of, put you to sleep. This full diaphragmatic breath is both energizing and calming. Turn the feet over to the left. Bring your hands on your hips. Bend the front knee. Use your hands to help get that feeling. There's a little inhale and exhale. And then float the arms up and out to the side. You can turn your head. Now release the arms, straighten the leg, turn and step in. Now I'm aware that there have been times when I have taught about the diaphragm and how on the inhale, the diaphragm moves down and on the exhale, it moves up. So I just want to be clear that this rib cage instruction that I'm giving you is separate from that. I don't want you to feel confused. Like, oh, last time she said inhale, go down, exhale, go up. Okay. So we're focusing more here on the ribs. That is going to also create space for the diaphragm to move, but I'm not focusing there today. All right. Let's take the feet out wide again. We're going to turn them towards the chair. So whichever side your chair is on, turn towards the chair. Have your toes underneath the front of the chair so that when you bend your knee, you're not crashing your shin into the chair. And let's come back to warrior pose like this. Now, we're going to really root down through that back foot and then lengthen over, put a hand on the chair, and take the top arm up and over. As you start to turn your chest, and you can press down with your hand, you can turn your chest a little bit to like come into a more open position. Notice if there's tension or a little squeezing around the kidney that's on the left, on the bent knee side of your body. I can feel it right away. So I'm going to press down in the chair and see if I can puff that out a little bit and turn with a little more clarity from the inside. Again, keeping balance. Now, bring the arm down, stand up with a firmness in your feet, and step in. Switch the chair to the other side or turn around, whichever you like. I know some people like to keep watching the screen. So you can move the chair. And we'll do the same thing. So come into a warrior stance. Nice full breath. Lift the arms. And then come over, hand onto the chair. Take the top arm over. Now if you stretch a little more through your thumb, okay, you can even curl the fingers in, reach through your thumb, you'll feel that broadness in the back. Keep the legs steady, but then turn as if you're turning inside. And notice again on the bent knee side, is there any tension around the kidney? If you can keep that a little bit more spacious and open. Nice full breath. Release the arm and come up. Come back to your awareness of breath over and over again. If it starts to feel contracted, labored, shortened, like too hard, too fast, then you know too much effort. And sometimes that too much effort will come with like a lot of pressure around the ribs. You see if that's true for you. If you start to get kind of distracted or feeling a little like, ho-hum, bring a little more power to your breath. That will help to enliven the energy of your pose. All right, so warrior two and side angle, those poses we just did. Now you can bring the chair kind of more out of your way again. Actually, I'm going to change that. We're going to take the chair, face it, and come down with hands on the sides of the chair. So coming into an easy standing table pose. Move your, without rocking your weight forward, move your chest a little towards the back of the chair. But then again, breathe into the backs of the kidneys, like your ribs could lift up a little. So you find that balance. From there, we're going to step back to downward facing dog pose. And you can walk your feet way back, reach back with your hips. Have a lot of weight in your heels so that the chair, so that most of the weight is in the legs. Ideally, having a chair against the wall is nice so that if you do put a little pressure into your hands, the chair doesn't slide. At the very least, have it on all four legs on the mat. Stretch back. Now lift your chest a little bit and step your left foot forward under the chair. Take a lunge. And as you press down into the chair with your hands, lift your chest. Again, just having that awareness. Do the back ribs push in? Is there pressure against your kidneys? And then see if you can float the ribs back a little bit and elongate your whole torso as if your rib cage in the front and the back and the sides can move a little away from the pelvis. Now step back. Again, reach your hips back, reach your weight back, and then step your right foot forward. A couple of breaths there. And then step the feet together and stand up. Bring your arms overhead, reach them way up. And as you do that, you may feel, for a lot of us, there's just this natural tendency to almost come into a little back bend. So see if you can float up through the back, reach to your thumbs, keep more of that balance. Bring the arms down. And then bend forward, put your hands on the chair again, and step back to downward dog pose. With your arms straight and strong, come forward and lift up on your toes. See if you can find a plank position. And then stretch back. And then walk forward and stand up. All right. I'd like to teach you today a modified Surya Namaskar, sun salutation. So we're going to go into both the sun of the radiant sun that shines upon us and brings light into the world, but also the brilliance of that inner sun, and letting those two come into balance. Surya, means sun, and namaskar, it's like namaste, same root. It means to honor, to salute. So it's called sun salutation. So what I'm going to suggest is that you watch one round of sun salutation, and then I'll lead you through and we'll do a couple together. Here's two things I want to tell you before I do the whole flow. One is when I come forward to take the hands on the chair, I'm going to have you sweep the arms up and then actually bend the knees a little and bring your arms down so they're straight and the spine is long. I don't want to be in like a cow pose, collapsed here, but a nice lift to the center of the heart. So that's one thing. The other thing is that when I step back to downward dog pose, I want my feet back far enough that I can really lengthen. You see how my arms are straight? And so I'm not in this kind of position, right? If to get your chest back, you have to bend your knees, it's okay, right? So I'm really stretching back into the legs. This way, my feet are going to be back far enough that when I come into plank pose, my chest is over the front edge of the chair and I can get that plank position of the body. If your feet are too close in your down dog, then you're going to feel kind of funny. You won't be able to get into plank. Do you see that? So you step back to downward dog, you step back far enough that you see the angle of my arms, you can really reach back. And if legs straight works for you, that's fine. Plank pose is then like this. So I'm really strong lifting the heart. The full Surya Namaskar has a back bend in it, but we're gonna take that out for today and do the sequence like this. I'll show you. As you stand and watch, stand in mountain pose and do Ujjayi breath. So you're not standing kind of, like, I don't know what you're doing. Maybe just stand and like really be present and even imagine your own body moving through these motions. I'm going to show you without any words so you can just see, and then I'll talk you through it. That's the whole sequence. And throughout, I'm breathing in, breathing out. Just want to feel this sort of nice, radiant glow and balance all through the entirety of the pose. And it comes kind of from here. All right, let's do one together. Stand a distance from your chair. It's about a foot or a little bit more away. If you're too far, it can be a stress on the back reaching down. If you're too close, of course, you'll be too compact. Bring your hands to your heart. I like to start out with a couple of mouth exhales, just really releasing into the moment. And then you can begin a very gentle Ujjayi breath. You may or may not have a lot of sound on this Ujjayi. If it feels like it's forceful or effortful to create the sound, just have that sort of quality of long inhale and long exhale. On an inhale, we're going to drop the hands down, take the arms overhead. And then with the exhale, bend the knees, flow down, hands to the chair, and come into a standing table. Step back to downward dog pose. Reach your legs back. Now on an inhale breath, come forward to plank pose. Now come up on your toes, Lengthen through the entirety of your body. Keep those back ribs bright. Now back again to downward facing dog. Enjoy a breath. And then lift your chest a little, look towards the chair, and step your left foot forward. You may need to adjust your back foot back slightly. Come into a lunge. Press back into that back heel, firm your front foot into the floor, and then lightly lift from the depths of your belly. And as you take your arms over, notice if your ribs are pushing forward, and see if you can soften them back. Stretch up. With an exhale, take the arms wide, fold over to take your hands on the chair, and step back to downward dog pose. Lift your chest, step the right foot forward. And then with an inhale breath, or maybe even a couple of breaths, come up to this version of Warrior One pose. Exhale, touch down, and step back, downward dog. Now we'll do that flow forward again to plank pose. And back once more to downward facing dog pose. And then step one foot forward and the other. Bend the knees, inhale, stand up. Join the hands overhead and then flow them down to the center of your heart. Release the hands to your sides. Do a few circles with your wrists. I do notice with the chair that it can feel like it puts a lot of pressure on my hands. So if you're noticing that, make sure that your grip is light on the chair. And again, bend your knees. So here I don't have any pressure on my hands, like that. And for plank pose, you actually could stand up instead and just get a really nice lift through your body. Okay, so if you need to not have so much pressure on your hands, then you do your downward dog pose like this, and then you step up. This is plank pose. It's back to downward dog pose. Okay, that may help. Ooh. I just realized I took my little brace off my thumb and it's still a little broken. I'm not supposed to bend it, so excuse me. Support my thumb better. All right, here's what the last thing I want to tell you about Surya Namaskar before we do the whole thing. One of the beauties of this practice is that it's a practice that really encourages a vibrant opening and then a folding inward. And over again, it's like this vibrant opening and then this bowing, folding inward. And I think about that and like sustaining my passion. It's remembering to pause and look in and see what I'm really wanting, and then to let that come out in the most balanced way. And the balanced way isn't for it to just keep on flaring, right? No, there's refeeding it again, refueling it, and bringing it out. So you might bring that intention with you too. You can face the chair, arms by the sides. Just coming back into an easy breath. You can use the sound of Ujjayi or simply the intention of that long inhale, long exhale. We're going to do 2 cycles of Surya Namaskar. Bring your hands together at your heart. On an inhale, sweep the arms down and up and overhead. Bend the knees, exhale. Touch your hands to the chair and step back to downward dog pose. Your variation of downward dog so that you can breathe easy. Now, come forward to plank pose. And back again to downward dog. Step your right foot forward. Find your balance and then inhale to come up. Take a breath here. And exhale to touch down. Step back. Bring the other foot forward. And take your time, breathing in and out, come upright. And start the movement down with an exhale breath. Step back. Come forward to plank pose. This is your brilliant opening. Exhale back to downward dog pose, bowing back in. Walk forward. And inhale up. Hands to heart. And release down. Drop the arms. Close your eyes a moment. Feel the breath. And then I'm going to give you a few moments to do one on your own. You can do it about that same pace. Breathing in and breathing out. Start with hands at the heart. Inhale, breath to take the arms up. Exhaling, touch the chair, step back. And continue. Don't worry if you don't remember exactly. Just do the motions. Staying present with that quality of balanced effort. When you've completed the whole cycle, stand in easy mountain pose. Enjoy the breath. And I feel the warming from the practice is energizing and heating. Feel also if there's any tiredness. Breathe into whatever is present. And then from here, come down onto the floor. I'm going to take the legs up from the chair. You can lie down. Let your legs rest on the chair and your hands rest on your belly. After the effort, now let your body drop into relaxation. So important to refuel, to have quiet time, personal connection with yourself. It's not all about the efforts you make, the things you do, what's created. It's also about what are those inner fires that are burning? What needs attention inside of you? Let the breath come in and out like a gentle bellows. A gentle bellows that just keeps a little air under that, on those embers. Let them glow inside. And then cross your right ankle over your left knee and slide that left foot back and enjoy a little stretch and opening on the outer hip. with a soft intention. Breathe deeply. So if you could breathe right down into where you feel the stretch. And then let that go. And switch sides. And as we start to cool down after the practice, still that little inner fire is welcome. Fire of your attention, your presence. Let that go. Rest the legs. Rest the arms down on the floor. And you come into a very simple relaxation here. Without too much movement or effort now. Letting the heat of your practice settle throughout your body. See if as you're resting and the breath is still nice and steady and in your gentle focus, if you can feel that little opening in the back ribs towards the floor. So not a pressing or a pushing, but more of an inner release. A quality of space. A movement into a quieter interior. And then for a few moments, just let your focus be a little more diffuse. Letting go for a bit, trying to make anything happen. And simply allow yourself to be. After your next exhale, start to wiggle your fingers a little, wiggle your knees in, wiggle your toes. Now take your time and roll to your side. Come up slowly and easily. And for just another moment, take a seat. Feel free to sit up on your chair or to sit on the floor. May your fire burn bright, and may you find balance and ease in all that you do. Namaste to you. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.